As human beings, we're all very emotional creatures, right? Some of us are more emotional than other people, some of us are less emotional, some of us are very expressive with our emotions, and some of us not so much. However, in my understanding and experience as a coach, as a lifter, we might come from different places in life, different backgrounds, whether it's like economical or social backgrounds, but we all come from a place where we want to start lifting or we want to pursue lifting because there's some more underlying problem that exists. For example, some people might use lifting as a coping mechanism to deal with the loss of a loved one. Some of us might do it because they've been cheated on. Some of us have faced some betrayal in our lives, and we feel like this is the one place where we can actually come and use as a mechanism to cope. For some of us, it makes us feel like we have a place that we belong in, right? We have a place that gives us purpose, that helps us go on a path that lets you become better, not just physically, but also mentally. So lifting has a lot to do with the mental aspects of life. It can be one of those things that can either hold you together during a very tough time, or it can actually be one of those things that can let you slip away into more destructive methods if you don't get into this and you don't understand the lessons that you can learn from lifting. A lot of people can learn a lot of lessons from things like this, right? So a lot of us are emotional when it comes to lifting. We put a lot of self-value, we put a lot of self-worth in not just how strong you are, but also how you look. So it's not just vain purposes. There's a lot more to it behind, and the purpose for why you do it, how you do it, it all can come from many different things. So because of that, lifters in general are people who are emotionally, they come from emotionally vulnerable backgrounds. So it could be any reason, as I mentioned. As coaches, we have, in my opinion, a very noble and a very beautiful responsibility to not only help somebody become better from a physical standpoint, but we have the ability and the potential to actually guide somebody into a much better path in life, right? Usually you get younger kids who are interested in the sport of powerlifting, and they join you because they believe that you are one of those people that can get them to where they want to be. And while most of them do follow your lifting part, they also want to get some kind of advice from you regarding their lives or anything else that they're having issues with. So while as a coach, it's probably not your job to do it, but of course, when somebody is going through something, you try and help them. One of the most recent examples that I can think of is how a very young man, of like 18, 19 years old, he came up to me and he started talking to me about how he was having a lot of problems at home. There were some issues, and to me, it might just be like a 10-minute conversation, just telling him, very basic common sense stuff like, yeah, don't worry about this, maybe you focus on this, right? It's very simple for me to say that, to sit here and just say that it's just that much. But a few months down the line, the kid came back to me and he told me how something like that changed his life, and it made him become so much better. It made him so much more disciplined. It made him understand how to think in certain situations. It made him understand how to deal with difficult times. So as a coach, right, you're not just somebody who is giving out good information from a lifting perspective. You have the ability to actually change somebody's life. You can give someone the kind of advice depending on how you do it. You can actually help them, get out of something something difficult, actually help them go down a path. You have the ability to create people's futures, literally. As much as I might not feel that way when I'm doing it, there is a good chance that the things that I say might either make somebody or not make someone, right? Of course, at the end of the day, work has to be done by the lifter themselves. They have to have the kind of mental ability to grasp and understand things, but you have a lot of responsibility as a person. And that's the reason why I believe that coaches should have noble and pure intentions when they're coaching people. The point of this video is to highlight how a good number of coaches in the Indian powerlifting community don't have good intentions, and you'll see what I mean by that. I'm not going to take names because there are a few reasons for that. The main reason being that if I take names, people who are watching this video, you're going to focus more on the drama aspect of things. So if I take names, then there'll be back and forth. Somebody will come and say that, why do you take my name? You shouldn't take my name. I didn't do things like that. And I don't want that drama. I don't have the kind of time. Neither do I want to put that kind of effort. Most of you are watching. You know that I'm mostly working for the whole day. So I have things to do. So I'm not interested in that. This is more about explaining to people how coaches who are manipulators, who are using cheap emotional manipulating tactics, mental gymnastics, they are basically predators, right? In every sense of the word, because they're looking to capitalize on a lifter's weak point, that is their insecurity or their vulnerability of their performance. Usually this is what these coaches do. They look at a lifter who has a good potential or a good future, and they start to try and poke the lifter bit by bit. And a lot of times it's very subtle. It is disguised under, the guise of being friends. Not to be confused with politeness or just being nice. They pretend to be your friend in order to gain your trust, in order to gain access to in order to gain access to you as a person, or to flip you onto their side. And I have seen this happen quite a bit, which is why I'm going to talk about it. For people who've experienced these problems, you will be able to relate by the end of this video. One of the worst red flags that I've seen with coaches, right, is that a lot of them love gossiping with people. While you can definitely sit with a person and talk to them about, their problems, and you can try to be more of a problem solver apart from just lifting. Like I said, in some cases, some people do require some emotional support, but you don't have to, pretend to be their friend. In my opinion, that's the worst thing you can do. And this goes much, much more beyond than just taking somebody's client or unethical business practices. As a human being, it's a very shitty thing to do when you are pretending to be somebody's friend, because you're giving them the hope that you're there for them, when in reality all you want is their money, right? And I think that's a very messed up thing to do. So a lot of these coaches, right, the biggest red flag, number one, that I find is that they love gossiping with you. For example, you'll have some coaches who'll approach some lifters, and lifters of another coach, and then they start talking to them like, oh bro, you know what, I think you're such a brilliant lifter, and I think you can do so much better actually. Your coach, he charges this much, but he's not telling you that you have these issues. Now, in most likely that problem is not even there, right? Because if the coach is good, they'll be able to fix it. And in some cases, if the lifter is good, there's nothing to fix from a technique perspective. Some lifters are just very proficient technically, and you don't have to change it. But these people will start planting doubt in your head, right? And they'll tell you that your coach, they don't tell you that you have these problems. Oh, I think what you can do is you can fix it like doing this. And they intentionally actually start to mess with the lifter's head. because then the lifter starts thinking that maybe this person is actually being so nice to me, they actually like me as a person and they want to see me succeed, right? Because that is usually the kind of disguise that these people have. Obviously not everybody is like that, but in my experience I've seen quite a lot of people are like that. So that's one way they do it. The second way is lifters, and I feel like this is a very classic narcissistic move, and that's the reason why I say that it is not just limited to unethical business practices. It has more to do with how somebody as a human being is just a shitty person. Some of them, what they do is that they will make you believe that they're the only option available to you. I've heard this dialogue from 3 different coaches. Every time a lifter has expressed that something is not going well, they start pinning the blame entirely on the lifter, right? The feedback is completely disregarded. They tell the lifter that everything is their fault. And then they start telling the lifter, if the lifter, for example, if the lifter expresses a feeling, like they say that something is wrong, maybe we should address it. And then they say that I spoke to coach A, B, C, D, E to get a second opinion, right? The instant response for most of these, like these kind of people, is to say that nobody knows anything as much as I do. I am the best in this country. And if you leave me, your career is over. You won't be able to do well in your life. And I've actually heard this from, people who have, gone to worlds or anything of these. I've seen this. It's not just about hearing. I've actually seen this, right? There are people like this. There are coaches like this who have either gone to worlds or other big competitions or something of that sort, or, they pretend to be very nice people, but they'll try to convince you that they are your only option. This is more of a deep-rooted thing, as I said, because what they're essentially trying to do, right? They're trying to cut off your options one by one. And this is a very, very messed up way of, targeting somebody and trying to prey on someone. You're trying to find somebody who's going through a problem and they're emotionally vulnerable at this point. And you see it. And that's the reason why you attack them exactly where it bothers them. So you try to tell them that everything that they're doing is only their fault. You're not willing to accept or take any kind of responsibility for whether you could have made a mistake or you could have been better, right? And then you try to cut off options A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever number of coaches that this person thinks is somebody that they can go to. You're trying to cut that off one by one, and you're trying to make them believe that you are the only option. This is a very classic narcissist behavior, right? So you're trying to give them the idea that they have nobody else to go to help to, whereas you continue to create problems for them. Like I know some people who continue to ruin a lifter to the breaking point where so many people have just quit lifting. Like I have people coming to me saying that they've worked with so-and-so coach and that they don't even want to lift anymore, and this is their last one try, and if it does not work out with me, they want to quit lifting completely because of how they're having so much pain or they're having so much issues with this and that. And it's very alarming to me that I hear these kind of things, and it's not just here, I see sometimes, right? I see it, like people send me the conversation. So that's another way. One more thing that I've seen is how these coaches, they will pretend to be, buddy with you in the comment section, whereas they don't really respond to any of their own lifters. If you're taking money from people, your number one priority should be giving the kind of service that you've promised to the people that are paying you. But a lot of people, what they do is that they have this very weird, grass is greener on the other side kind of a mentality, where their entire focus is going to be on lifters that they don't have, because for them, the lifters that they do have, they are just people who are paying them on a regular basis, and they're just talking to them enough or giving them just a little bit of input just to keep them there. While they don't really respond or update programs on time, they are 100% willing to have conversations and full-fledged discussions with lifters in other people's DMs, in other people's conversations, just to make it look like they're actually interested in coaching so much. Whereas all they're trying to do is gain the favor of a talented lifter. Because when you see a talented lifter, if the talented lifter does well under your coaching, then your coaching is going to grow, right? So they think that this is the way to succeed. But they don't understand that if you have if you had focused on the clients that you have right now, they themselves would refer another 5 or 10 people and bring them to you if they actually felt good about working with you, right? I find it very, very messed up that there are so many coaches like this who take full and complete advantage of athletes who are going through difficult times in their lives. For example, some of these coaches will single out athletes who are injured at this point, right? So let's say that I have somebody who is working with me, and as it's kind of normal to have some kind of injury happen, after a few years of lifting, somewhere here and there, some breakdown or something has been overworked, and we need to kind of, take a step back and see what the problem is, and then we have to see what the issue is and fix it. A lot of coaches, what they do is that they look at an athlete whenever they post something like, oh, I'm injured right now, and this is why I'm not lifting as much as I used to. They try to go and they start poking on that vulnerable part. And that's the reason why I find it so messed up, that people are so, they're so okay with targeting somebody's mental state, right? They're so okay with something like that. In my opinion, it's very messed up. And it shows more, not just about how it's unethical business practice to start DMing and start targeting other people's clients, but it has more to do with what kind of a person you are. You're very clearly a very predatory mindset kind of a human being. So some of these guys, what they do is that they find athletes who are injured, and then they go and they say that, oh, your coach, they're not helping you out, looks like, I guess maybe you should change. One thing that coaches need to understand, and for some reason this professional boundaries doesn't seem to exist in our country. When someone joins you, they are your client. If they become more than your client genuinely, that's great. But your job as a coach is to coach them, and their job as a lifter is to follow what you're saying and give you appropriate feedback. And then you take the feedback and you make changes to things. For some reason, because people are so lonely, they want to become friends with their coach. You need to understand to draw professional boundaries with the people that you're working with. You can't expect them to be your savior or anything of that sort. If they're there for you, that's great, but you can't expect that. You need to go to somebody else for that. And you can't sit there and think that just because somebody is talking to you or they're being nice to you, they care about you. Here's one example that I have. I had a client, I still have them actually, they're still my client. But one of my clients, he had joined a very famous coach, okay? And this person knew him personally. And when my current client, he was going through something difficult, this coach was there for them. And by there for them, it's not like they did anything. They're just there to listen to whatever problems they had. And this client, right, let's call them B. B was going through difficult times. So he talked to a coach. The coach listened to them, and B felt morally obligated to stay with that coach. Now the problem with something like this is that if you don't draw that professional boundary, the problem with something like this is that you are going to feel like you are bound to them regardless of whatever kind of service they provide, even if you are paying full price for it, right? Just because somebody was nice to you or they listened to your problems, it doesn't mean they stopped doing their job. Now this person B, he started to notice that nothing was ever updated on time. Literally, sometimes programs which were supposed to be updated on a weekly basis were updated once in 3 months. They were not changed. No kind of feedback was provided. program did not have any progression scheme, rep scheme. It was just exercises just plastered and thrown at his face. And while B was still paying this person, this very famous coach, full amount of money, complete, no discounts. So I don't understand. While I understand that you feel like you're bound there because somebody was there for you a little bit, it's not your obligation to stick to somebody who's not treating you right. Okay? So what coaches need to understand is that clients are not your property. They don't belong to you. They're there, they get their service, you give them good service, they will continue with you if the service is good. If service is not good, they will leave. It's that simple. And sometimes, even if service is good, even if things are going well, maybe the client might want to try something different or a different style of coaching with somebody else that they feel that they can do it with. Or sometimes there's a personality mismatch and they might feel like, some of the guys, some other coach, maybe they'll have like more of a personality match and they feel like they can do better under that coach. And that's also okay. It's not necessarily your fault for something like that. They don't belong to you. So you should stop having meltdowns and you should stop having these emotional outbursts and you should stop playing these mental gymnastics. For example, I've had a few people come to me from the same person, same coach, okay? And when the person, when these people express themselves that, we want to leave your coaching and we want to join this guy because we feel like we want to see what it's like. The person had this huge outburst and they were like, you will never amount to anything in your life. Everything you do is like your fault and that's the reason why you're a failure. And if you go to this person, they won't even care about you because this person only talks to the best of the best lifters. Like you don't even matter to someone like them. Why do you have to make things up? I know why you have to make things up, because you're not good. But why do you focus on such useless aspects when you can spend time learning and being better? That is what actually gets you to be successful and actually makes you money, sustained money at least. You won't make this insane quick buck, but it'll give you a much more sustained income when people that are with you or have been with you, when they're happy, they'll go and tell other people that, I am with this person and they're a great coach. They always reply within the time frame that they've mentioned. They always make sure to update on time. Of course, here and there might be some delays if you're not feeling well or something like that. But when it comes to overall, you should be giving a good service. And if you give a good service, people will stay with you for the most part. This is the reason why I keep saying that it doesn't matter how many people you coach, because if you're telling me that you're coaching thousands of people, end of the day, it simply means that thousands of people are leaving you. You want to have a very high client retention rate. The people who join you, they shouldn't feel like leaving you unless until there is some kind of problem like, financial or some family issue or something where their situation is just not allowing them to go to the gym, right? Unless until something like that, they're not going to leave you in most cases if you're doing a very good job. If you're consistently trying to make the lifter feel like shit because you know that this is the way to get a hold of them, this is how you do it. I've seen this with some of these coaches, especially like, the most recent case that I spoke about. They literally start telling lifters that if you leave us, your life is over. Your life is entirely done. There is no way you will do anything else in your life. Everything in your life is a waste of time now. I don't understand how people talk like that to someone else. And I genuinely do not understand how people fall for that also. But I get it to some degree because people are very emotional when it comes to their progress in numbers, right? That's what we're here for. Even somebody like Rajat Rawat that I have coached, and he's like my brother for a long time now, for people who've been following me, right? I've coached him since the very beginning. Even someone like him, I have always told him that if he ever feels like he can do better without me, that if he feels like another coach can take him to the heights that he wants to achieve, he's always welcome to leave and I will never have a problem with it, right? Because at the end of the day, what you need to understand as a coach, you have to be selfless. It's not about you. You are not above the game. You are below the game. I don't matter in the grand scheme of things. The goal here is to create athletes that will represent the country at the highest level and they can rival the best of the best in the world. That is what your idea or your goal should be when you're coaching. That is what I look forward to do, right? That is something that I want to do. That is the reason why I've consistently tried my best to have people who are setting national records and winning nationals, and they're able to, go to Asians and also do well, right? That's what I have been doing for the last couple of years. And I hope that that continues. And I hope that people have that kind of faith and trust and understanding in me. But of course, a lot of coaches have this ego that it's about them. They feel like it's all about them. They don't seem to understand that the game of powerlifting or anything that you're contributing to, right? It's bigger than you. It's not you. It's not about you. It has never been about you or me. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about the athletes. They need to go and they need to achieve it. If you are unable to do it yourself, and now you've stepped away from competing and now you're a coach, it is your responsibility to create those kind of lifters, right? And to create those kind of lifters, you actually have to be good. It has lesser to do with anything else than you actually spending time and paying attention to the people that are with you. I don't know why that's such a difficult thing to do, which is why any of the lifters that are there with me who are good, who have the potential to go there, because of course genetics matter. I always tell them that if they ever feel like, they want to leave because they feel like they can do better with someone else, I don't mind that. Just let me know. That's it. And you can go. That is never a problem, or that should never be a problem for anyone. But a lot of people will treat people like cash cows, and they genuinely feel like anytime one of these cash cows runs away, they have a problem with it, which is why they start attacking them automatically. I have a huge problem with coaches like this, because when you have the responsibility and the ability to shape people's lives, you also have the responsibility and ability where you can break them. And the way you treat these people, it can actually hurt them to the point where they completely quit. The whole point is to create athletes at an elite level, and the whole point is to raise the standard as a whole, so that you have so many lifters that you can compete with, and then you see so many lifters who are cropping up and they're doing so well and they're going to international standards. But when you consistently start telling people that they'll never amount to anything, or they're useless and everything that they do is wrong and everything is their fault, you're kind of killing the scene. This is a big deal, because if it was just one person or two people, that would have been fine. But it's a significant number of people that do this, and this is not a joke. People who will watch this till the very end, you can always write down in the comments telling your experiences or whatever. You don't have to name anyone, and I'm not even bothered. I'm not even interested to know the names of people who do this. But when people talk like this, they actually do talk like this. It's not something that I'm making up. I've seen this happen so many times that I wanted to make this video so that more and more people understand what actually happens behind the scenes. And it's pretty sad, because it's not just money that's being lost, right? It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of the mental part of it that you're taking advantage of another person. It's just very disgusting, predatory behavior when you're somebody that is taking advantage of somebody who is so passionate about lifting, and they're so passionate about progressing in powerlifting. They want to do something with their lives. They want to feel like they've achieved something because either they've been told that they're not good enough at something, or something of that sort. It can be a lot of reasons. And you people taking advantage of it as coaches, when you should be shaping and creating and making other people's lives better, that is very sad. You need to do better. It's very messed up, in my opinion, that people exist like that. And I know it exists in every field, of course. But as, in noble professions where you can actually make or shape a person's life, you have the ability to do things beyond just something small. You have the ability to change people's lives. That's why A good teacher is remembered by children even after they grow up. A good doctor is remembered by people even after they've been saved. The same way, a good coach that can help somebody not just lift more weights, but also go down a path of self-improvement where they can understand, where they can take from lifting the understanding of discipline, the understanding of mental and physical resilience, the understanding of so many things. If you can actually take, all these lessons and you can actually start using these lessons in your daily life, it's going to make so much of a difference in that person's life. As a coach, you can teach these things to the people, but to do the opposite, that is just sad. Coaches need to be better than that.